Well, I, from an early age, wanted to become a bus driver. So my name's Richard Gingell. You need to remember Richard, as it's mentioned in a story later on. You'll understand later. And I welcome the opportunity to speak to you this morning about a career in Winnipeg Transit, and in particular as a bus operator. So I've worked for Winnipeg Transit for just over 3 years, and my bus career started not much older than what you are now, 18 years old. I'm also a son of a bus driver, so it's in the family, so it gets even sadder. So from a very early age, even at school, I knew I was going to become a bus driver. So at 18 years old, I passed my Class 2, and I became a bus driver for the local town that I lived in. So I worked for several transit companies in England until 2008, when I had the opportunity to drive for Calgary Transit. And there I was there for 2 years, and then I moved to Winnipeg, and here I am driving for Winnipeg Transit. So I want to talk to you today about the criteria necessary to become a bus driver, bus operator. The training that you will receive, a typical day in the life of a driver. Not that there's any typical day, but as typical as I can tell you. Opportunities within Winnipeg Transit, personal rewards and job security benefits, and how driving a bus has changed over the years. So, for those who are interested to apply for a bus operator, you must have grade 10, not grade 12, just grade 10. You need to hold a valid Class 5 licence, and you need to do that for 1 year. So you need to have at least one safety rating point. You also need a copy of your driver abstracts, which you get from MPI, and that costs $10. You also need a criminal record check that's satisfactory to the City of Winnipeg. And then you must be able to work evenings, weekends, nights, holidays, split shifts, straight through shifts. So once you've done all that, you've then completed the first part of the application. And there's more, unfortunately. So once you've completed that, you then go into what they call a written public relations test. And basically you'll sit in a room and you'll view a typical bus driving downtown, and you'll see the mirrors either side on the screen, and then all of a sudden they'll freeze the film, and it's a kind of what happens next, and you'll get multi-choice questions. You then have a driver suitability evaluation, so you get to drive the bus around our local circuit within the garage. And basically the instructors will view how you negotiate the vehicle through corners, through a coned area which goes inwards. You do some stopping and some reversing just to get an idea of what's involved, and they will see how you're dealing with the situation. Once you pass that, you then have to have a medical and a functional assessment. Any idea what a functional assessment might be? No, I didn't actually, because I didn't have to do this because I came from Calgary Transit. A functional assessment is basically they get you to reach up and they get you to reach to the side, adjusting mirrors, changing the signs, just basically to see how you stretch and that you're able to do the simple functions. Then after that, you then have to have a reference check and a criminal record check, and then a final selection review. It seems an awful lot, and it is quite a lot. So if you're successful, you'll be offered a position with Winnipeg Transit, and before your first day, you will need to go down to MPI and do a written Class 2 and air brake test. Again, multi-choice. You get the books, you study, you go down there, and you get your licence endorsed on a Class 2 and an air brake test. Then you start training. Any questions so far? Nope. Okay, so the training course consists of fully paid 30-day training program. So it's a combination of classroom and street driving with an instructor teaching you how to drive a bus. After the 30 days, you will be qualified as a Class 2 transit operator driver, and you will then be able to drive for Winnipeg Transit. Okay, so a typical day in the life of a driver. Like I said, nothing really is typical about my day and my colleagues. One thing that does spring to mind, I was driving my bus, and I looked in the mirror and I saw a lady at the back of the bus in distress. So I immediately stopped the bus and walked to the back of the bus, and it turns out she decided she wanted to have her baby then and there. Having experience in delivering babies is fine, but unfortunately my experience delivering babies happened 13 years later, so it didn't actually help me in this situation. So the process was I kind of emptied the bus, I got my passengers off the bus and transferred them onto another bus, and I sat with this lady until the ambulance came. A few days later I was contacted by my control, and the lady obviously thanked me for helping her through the day. And she wanted to tell me what she named her baby. And guess what she named her baby? Bus driver. She didn't call him Richard, unfortunately. She called him William. I was a bit disappointed. Any Williams here? See, William's a bad name. Anyway. That's my dad's name. I'm sorry. Okay, so there's another story is that you hear in the media about the guy, the transit driver that stopped a homeless man who hadn't got any shoes on, and he gave up his shoes. So this is the kind of thing that we come across all day. Not every day, but quite often. Anyway, however, on a normal day, I begin my split shift around 6 a.m. and complete my first half around 9 or 10 o'clock. Then I get a chance to go home, do the chores that my wife leaves me, and then I return back to work around 3 o'clock, and I work till 6 or 7 o'clock. Split shifts are a long day. Effectively, I'm starting at 6 in the morning and I'm finishing at 7 o'clock at night. But the good thing is that it gives me the opportunity to go home and walk my dog and do my chores. And as my seniority increases, I'll get the opportunity to do one straight through piece of work, which will allow me to finish work a lot earlier. So my first task when I get to the garage, I tell the dispatcher I'm here. From that, I retrieve my work. I find out what bus I'm driving for that morning, and I go out to the garage and inspect the vehicle, check for damage, check for defects. And then I drive out of service to my start point. Doesn't get much simpler than that. So I just drive the bus. Is that all I do? No. My first priority when I'm driving is passenger safety. I have to keep a schedule. I have to check fares. I give directions when people ask me. I have to remember to stop the bus when someone wants to get off. Quite often, I do forget, and so consequently I have to stop, and then the people get off and they say, oh, you should have stopped at the last stop, but I'm only human. We are all only human. So we do this whilst manoeuvring a large vehicle, unpredictable traffic, ever-changing and adverse weather, and very tight spaces. We're also the eyes and ears of many city departments. For example, if we see a traffic light that's been crashed into, we inform our control, and they then inform the department that deals with traffic lights. They come along, and by the time I return back to that point, normally there's an engineer dealing with the traffic light. There's normally the cadets are there, kind of in the junction, doing what they do. Also the emergency services, again, we're the eyes and ears for them as well. Quite often we come across road accidents. We may find a pedestrian that's been injured on the street. Or we might just find someone that just needs some help and needs someone to come to their aid. So quite often we get on to our radio in the bus and and just let them know what's happening, and they then send the correct department. So opportunities for promotion within the company. Obviously you can become a transit instructor, the guys that instruct you whilst you're training, and you can become a transit supervisor. We have transit supervisors. They work in the control centre, and they receive information from the bus operators and from other supervisors. And they're also walking the streets, driving their trucks around the downtown, checking to make sure everything's running smoothly. So personal rewards, we have a fully paid training program. We have a paid vacation, starts off with 3 weeks, and after a couple of years it goes on to 4 weeks. We have a pension plan. I don't suppose many people here are thinking about pension plans, but it's something that we all need to think about at some stage in our lives. We have a dental and vision care. Again, this is all costs that help the individual. We have a free uniform, so you too could look like me. And we're working with a valued and diverse workforce. Job security. I know most of you guys are into computers. Well, I think my job's pretty safe. I don't think you're going to be inventing a computer that's going to drive the bus. But who knows? So like I said, a good pension and security. So how's driving a bus changed over the years? At the moment, we have automatic transmission. We have air conditioning on some of our buses. We have air brakes. We have power steering. These are all things that we never used to have when I started in the 80s. We also have a piece of technology called an InfoDev, which not only just tells us the time, but it also shows the next 4 bus stops and what times we're supposed to be there. It also allows us to contact control, and it allows us to send messages informing them if there's a defect of the bus or if we're running late. So has anybody ridden on any of the bendy buses we have? No? Well, they're normally just in the south part of the city. So we've just got the bendy buses. We've got 20 coming, 3 are on the road at the moment, with another 17 more ready to go on the road in the next few months. So as technology moves forward, we're going to be looking at electric buses over the next 10, 15 years. I don't know if anybody's seen the blue one that drives around downtown. That's being used to test how well electric buses are going to be able to cope with the Winnipeg winter. So Winnipeg Transit's constantly adapting to new technology needed for an ever-growing city.